Have you ever found yourself sitting quietly in your living room, watching your children, grown now, living their own lives, and suddenly felt a wave of reflection wash over you? You wonder, did I say too much? Were my words always the right ones? Not words spoken in anger or out of frustration, but those honest, heartfelt truths you shared over the years. Words you thought would guide, protect, or teach them. Words spoken with love, but maybe without knowing the full weight they would carry as time passed. It's a quiet moment many of us experience as we grow older. A subtle, sometimes unsettling thought that maybe, just maybe, some things are better left unsaid. We realize that the things we once believed were helpful or necessary might have caused unintended distance or pain. Because as the years unfold, we begin to see our words through a different lens. What seemed like simple honesty can, in fact, become a heavy burden for those we love most. Parenting doesn't end when the children grow up. Instead, it changes shape. The role shifts from guiding with firm hands to walking alongside with gentle wisdom. And in this new role, the balance between honesty and silence becomes delicate, almost fragile. How do we speak the truth without breaking the bond? How do we protect their hearts while honoring our own story? This is the journey of reflection, the journey to becoming a wiser parent. One who chooses words not just for the sake of speaking, but for the sake of healing, connection, and love. It's about learning when to listen, when to hold space, and when silence can be the most profound gift we offer. As we explore this together, I want you to know that you are not alone in this feeling. We all carry moments of regret, of wishing we had said less or said differently. But the beauty of growing older is that it grants us the chance to speak with new purpose, to protect rather than unload, and to become the calm, steady presence our children need, no matter their age. So let's begin this conversation with open hearts, gentle minds, and a shared hope that through wisdom and love, we can nurture relationships that heal, grow, and deepen, one carefully chosen word at a time. Linda's story, learning from experience. Let me share with you the story of Linda, a mother in her 60s, who, like many of us, believed deeply in honesty with her children. She lived by the idea that no secrets meant closeness, that sharing everything, no matter how difficult or personal, would strengthen the bond between her and her kids. For years, Linda practiced this openness without hesitation. She talked about her struggles, her regrets, her fears, thinking her children would understand and appreciate her honesty. But over time, something unexpected happened. Instead of growing closer, she felt a quiet distance growing between them. One evening, during a family dinner, Linda's son Ethan, who had always been a sensitive soul, looked down at his plate and softly said something that pierced her heart. "Mom, sometimes I wish you wouldn't tell me everything." Those words, simple yet profound, felt like a crack appearing in the mirror of their relationship. Small, but impossible to ignore. That moment was a revelation for Linda. She realized that honesty, without boundaries or consideration, can become a burden, not a bridge. What she had thought was loving transparency was, in fact, sometimes overwhelming her children with weighty truths they weren't ready or equipped to carry. Linda's journey is a powerful reminder that love isn't just about sharing every detail. Sometimes, love is about knowing what to keep silent, what to soften, and when to hold back. It's about protecting not just our own vulnerability, but also the emotional safety of those we cherish most. From Linda's experience, we learn that as parents, our words carry power far beyond what we might expect. They can heal, but they can also wound if not spoken with care. And wisdom often comes in learning to balance honesty with kindness, truth with tenderness. Her story sets the stage for the 9 things we might want to reconsider sharing with our children. not because we want to hide, but because we want to love wisely. Thing number 1. Avoid sharing financial stress. One of the first and most common pitfalls many parents fall into is sharing the weight of financial struggles with their children. It's natural. After all, money worries can be a constant presence in a household. Bills pile up, budgets tighten, and fears about the future gnaw at us. We want to be honest with our kids, especially when they ask why we say no to something or seem disappointed. But here's the truth. Sharing too much about financial stress can plant seeds of fear, guilt, or even resentment in their young hearts. Children, especially when they're small, don't have the tools to fully understand money. All they hear is danger, scarcity, and sometimes blame, thinking it's their fault or that the family is in constant crisis. Even as they grow older, hearing about debt or hardship can feel like pressure bearing down on them, making them anxious or ashamed. Linda experienced this firsthand. One day, her grandson wanted a new toy, and her daughter hesitated. "We can't afford that," she said sharply. Trying to explain, Linda shared a memory from her own past. "When your mother was young, we couldn't even afford a proper birthday gift some years. We were drowning in debt." The room fell silent. Her daughter's face changed in that moment. Something had shifted. Linda realized she'd unintentionally taken away her daughter's moment to parent confidently and had turned it into a story about past hardship. This is why it's so important to be mindful of how we talk about money with our children. Instead of saying we're broke, try saying we're being careful with money right now. Rather than telling them we lost everything when you were little, say, we made it through tough times and we're stronger because of it. The strength lies in quiet composure. It's about acknowledging reality without dramatizing it. Teaching children about resilience, responsibility, and hope, without unloading the full weight of our worries on their shoulders. When we choose our words carefully, we protect their innocence and foster confidence. We show them that challenges can be faced with calm and courage, not fear. This is one of the first lessons in loving wisely, knowing that some burdens are ours to carry, not theirs. Thing number 2, avoid complaining about marital conflicts. Every marriage faces its storms. Arguments, misunderstandings, moments of frustration. They are all part of life's ebb and flow. It's normal to feel the urge to vent, especially to those closest to us. Sometimes, that closest person might be your child, someone you trust deeply. But sharing your marital frustrations with your children, no matter how much you want to be honest, can create unintended pain. Linda found herself in this situation. After a particularly tough week with her husband David, she vented during a phone call with her daughter Emily. "Your father never listens," she sighed. "I don't know how I've stayed married this long." Emily laughed nervously and quickly changed the subject, but Linda felt the shift. Something fragile between them had unsettled. To children, especially when they love both parents, hearing one parent criticize the other feels like being asked to choose sides in a battle they never signed up for. It creates tension, confusion, and sometimes guilt. Even adult children can feel trapped in the crossfire, carrying burdens that are not theirs to bear. This isn't to say you should pretend everything is perfect. Honesty is important, but so is protecting your children's emotional safety. If you're upset or frustrated, it's healthier to seek support from friends, your partner, or a counselor. Share your feelings where they belong, not at the feet of your children. Linda learned that speaking from principle, not emotion, is key. Instead of unloading her anger, she started saying things like, "Every couple has disagreements, but we're working through them." It's truthful without being hurtful, a way to maintain stability without hiding reality. By choosing to shield her children from marital storms, Linda preserved trust and peace in their relationship. She understood that her children's well-being mattered just as much as her own honesty. Sometimes, The greatest love we can give is to carry the heavy storms ourselves so our children can stand safely in the calm. Thing number 3, avoid detailed confessions about past mistakes. We often believe that sharing our past mistakes with our children is a way to teach them important life lessons. After all, who better to learn from than those who have already stumbled and grown? But there's a fine line between sharing wisdom and unintentionally shaking your children's foundation of trust. Linda thought she was helping when she told her son Ethan about a rebellious moment from her youth. How she once forged a professor's signature to skip a class she hated. She meant it to be a lighthearted story, a cautionary tale about honesty and consequences. But instead, Ethan looked horrified. "You always told me to be honest," he said quietly. "How can you say that now?" That moment opened Linda's eyes. Her story, though true, conflicted with the values she had spent years teaching. It confused her son and undermined the integrity she wanted him to embrace. Sometimes our past is best shared with intention, not as raw confession, but as lessons distilled. You don't need to reveal every scar or stumble. It's not about hiding the truth, but about protecting the image of safety and stability that helps your children feel secure. Saying, "I've made mistakes too, but I learned from them," honors your journey without dragging them into every detail that might cause doubt or fear. Our past shapes us, but it does not define us, especially in the eyes of those who look to us for strength. Choose what you share wisely, with your children's growth in mind, not just your own need for release. That's the mark of loving communication, a gift of clarity wrapped in compassion. The power of silence and presence. As Linda grew older, she began to understand that her role as a parent was no longer about leading her children by the hand, but guiding them gently by example. She learned that sometimes the greatest gift she could offer was not in words, but in quiet presence. She realized that speaking less and listening more opened new doors in her relationships. When she chose silence with intention, it wasn't about hiding things or being distant. It was about creating space for her children to grow, to think, and to share on their own terms. This silence became a form of love, a way to protect dignity, both hers and theirs. It allowed her children to feel safe, not pressured or overwhelmed by unnecessary confessions or explanations. Linda learned that wisdom often lies in knowing when to hold back words and when to speak with deep purpose. This shift brought a new kind of closeness, one rooted in respect, trust, and patience. It was a quiet wisdom of age, teaching Linda that her voice was powerful not because it was loud, but because it was calm, steady, and thoughtful. Thing number 4, avoid comparing your children to others. Comparison. It's something we often do without realizing the deep impact it can have. Whether intentional or not, comparing your children to others can wound their self-esteem more deeply than any harsh word. It plants a seed of doubt that can grow into years of insecurity. Linda once complimented a neighbor's grandson for his sporting talents, then casually mentioned to her son Ethan, "I wish you had that kind of drive." She thought it was a light, even affectionate comment, but Ethan overheard and later withdrew into silence. That simple comparison made him feel like he was falling short in his mother's eyes. Children, no matter their age, need to feel seen and valued for who they truly are, not for how they measure up to others. Instead of comparing, Linda learned to focus on her son's personal growth. "I remember when you were afraid to show your sketches, and now you share your art online. That takes real courage." Praise that highlights progress and effort nurtures confidence. It says, "I see you. I see your journey." This kind of encouragement builds a foundation of self-worth that comparison can quickly erode. By shifting from comparison to celebration of individuality, Linda strengthened her children's sense of identity and their trust in her support. It's a lesson we all can carry. Our children deserve to be loved for exactly who they are. Thing number 5, don't pretend to be perfect. Show authenticity. There's a common myth that parents must always be strong, composed, and flawless. But perfection isn't what our children truly need. What they need is authenticity, a parent who can admit their imperfections, who is real and relatable. Linda experienced this in a simple but profound moment. While preparing a meal, she accidentally nicked her finger with a knife. Instead of brushing it off or pretending nothing happened, she sighed and said, "Even moms mess up sometimes." Her children, Ethan and Emily, looked up in surprise and concern. For the first time in a long time, they saw their mother as more human, more genuine, not an unshakable statue, but a person who stumbles and learns. This small admission became a turning point in their relationship. It freed Linda from the pressure of perfection and invited her children to embrace their own humanity without fear or shame. Authenticity builds trust. It teaches children that it's okay to make mistakes, to be vulnerable, and to keep growing. It shifts the focus from being right or strong to being honest and humble. Linda began sharing her reflections, not to seek sympathy, but to model self-awareness. When she reacted poorly or made a mistake, she would say, "I didn't like how I handled that, but I'm trying to do better." This openness inspired her children to do the same. In the end, being a real, imperfect parent is one of the greatest gifts we can give. It's through our authenticity that our children learn to live authentically themselves. Thing number 6. Be careful sharing sensitive family truths. Sometimes, family histories hold secrets, stories that have been whispered or locked away for decades. Discovering these truths can stir deep emotions and raise difficult questions about what to share and when. Linda faced this when she found an old letter written by her father, a man revered in the family as a strong and honorable war veteran. But the letter revealed something unexpected. He had once deserted his post. It was a secret never spoken aloud, a shadow beneath the family's proud history. Linda wrestled with whether to tell her children. Honesty had always been her value, but she understood that truth without care could cause more confusion and pain than healing. After reflection, she chose to share this revelation gently. She framed it not as a stain on her father's legacy, but as a reminder that everyone carries private battles, and that strength comes in many forms. Her children listened without recoil. They asked thoughtful questions, and by the end, felt inspired rather than disillusioned. This story teaches us that when sharing sensitive family truths, context and compassion matter deeply. It's not about exposing every scar, but about offering stories that enlighten, strengthen, and bring understanding. Wise storytelling protects the family's dignity and invites healing across generations. Thing number 7. Avoid unspoken expectations. Expectations can be powerful, yet sometimes the most damaging ones are those left unspoken. Children often sense what we want or hope for, even if we never say it out loud, and that can weigh heavily on their hearts. Linda discovered this the hard way. Her son Ethan hesitated to pursue art because he believed his mother wanted him to study business. She never explicitly said so, but her tone, her praise, and her stories had all pointed subtly in that direction. Hearing this was painful for Linda, but also a gift. It opened her eyes to how silent expectations had shaped her children's choices in ways she hadn't intended. From then on, Linda made space for open conversations, not just about grades or jobs, but about dreams and passions. Instead of asking, "What are you doing with your life?" she asked, "What lights you up?" She listened more and guided less. This shift allowed her children to explore their own paths without fear of disappointing her. Unspoken expectations can be invisible chains. Breaking free requires honest dialogue and a willingness to release control. It's a crucial step toward deeper trust and stronger relationships. Thing number 8. Avoid showing favoritism in words or actions. Even when we strive to love all our children equally, sometimes our words or actions unintentionally convey favoritism. This can create feelings of inadequacy, competition, and hurt that linger for years. Linda faced this realization when she praised her daughter Emily for being organized, saying, "You've always been so tidy, unlike your brother." What she meant as a lighthearted tease was heard by Ethan as a painful comparison. He later confessed that he had always felt like he had to prove himself, like he was never quite good enough. This broke Linda's heart. She never wanted to divide her children, yet her words had done just that. Determined to heal, Linda started spending quality one-on-one time with each child. She joined Ethan in exploring his art world and helped Emily in the kitchen, not to balance scales, but to show that each child was seen and valued for who they truly are. Love isn't just about how much we feel, but how equally we show it. Clear, consistent, and individual attention helps every child know they are cherished, unique, and enough, just as they are. Thing number 9. Practice wise silence. Don't always intervene. Sometimes the greatest act of love is knowing when to hold back. As parents, the instinct to step in and fix every problem is strong, especially when we see our children or grandchildren struggling or in conflict. But over time, Linda learned that sometimes stepping back and allowing them space to navigate their own challenges is the wiser choice. One busy Saturday morning, with the house full of family and laughter, Linda noticed her grandchildren beginning to argue over a toy. Her first impulse was to step in and stop the fight, but something made her pause. She remembered a lesson she had recently learned, that silence can be a form of wisdom. Instead of intervening, she watched quietly as the children worked through their disagreement. To her surprise, they reached a peaceful compromise on their own. No shouting or tears involved. The laughter soon returned, filling the house with warmth. This moment showed Linda the power of trusting her family to solve their own problems. Wise silence is not absence, it's confidence and love expressed through patience. It tells our children, "I trust you to figure this out." Linda even adopted a personal 5-second rule. Before responding, she would pause just long enough to ask herself, "Does this need to be said now? Or can I hold space and listen?" The results were profound. The less she rushed to fix things, the more her children opened up to her. Conversations deepened, confessions came more freely, and the bond grew stronger. Wise silence becomes a quiet form of love. It says, "I am here with you, not above you, and I trust your strength." Sometimes, saying less means loving more. As we walk further along the path of life, our role as parents transforms. No longer are we the ones holding all the answers or controlling every step. Instead, we become companions, guides, and steady presences. Linda came to understand that parenting doesn't have an end date. It simply changes shape. She embraced the power of speaking less and listening more. She learned that intentional silence can be one of the greatest acts of love. It shows respect, trust, and confidence in our children's ability to handle their own lives, even when we might have done things differently. This wisdom, born from years of joy, struggle, and reflection, reminds us that it's never too late to grow into a wiser, calmer parent. We can choose to protect rather than unload, to guide with presence rather than pressure. Linda's home transformed into a refuge, a place of peace where her children returned, not because she had all the answers, but because she had become a safe harbor. Her quiet strength, gentle guidance, and willingness to adapt deepened their connection. If you find yourself thinking back to words spoken too freely or moments when you wished you had held back, Know this: you are not alone. Growth is always possible. You have earned the right to speak less and mean more, to hold space for your family with grace. So here's to living your best life at any age, speaking with purpose, listening with heart, and loving with quiet dignity. The journey of parenthood continues, not in control, but in calm encouragement. And if this story resonates with you, share your thoughts and experiences. Together, let's honor the legacy of love and wisdom we continue to build.